Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Good, it's good. This is Perry Gruber from Copiosis, and welcome to Devil's Advocate. I'm the
What
founder
a
of
funny role now.
Copiosis, and we're here with we're here with a new format today. Before we jump into introductions, I want to do a real quick preamble to the show, which I always do at this time. This is the Copiosis live stream called Devil's Advocate, where we talk about the sticky questions about our implementation of this brand new economic system that is going to eliminate from the planet cost, debt, money, two-way transactions, earning a living, and prices, replacing all economic systems, that's capitalism, socialism, and communism, with something far better where people are totally free. And if you want to know more about this innovation, you can go to this website here and learn all about what we're doing, including details about the transition and also about the innovation itself. If you're interested in finding out where our money goes that people give us, you can go to this website. And while you're looking at the budget, you can also decide to become a supporter yourself for as little as $1 a month. And also, if you know about Copiosis and you haven't already, and you're interested in finding out about new live streams that we schedule or videos, please feel free to click that subscribe button and then click that bell so that you're in the loop on new shows and new videos as we load them up. So without further ado, I want to introduce Jill Dell, who you all probably know. This is our Devil's Advocate. Hey, Jill the Pill Dell. Hi. And then also
Yeah.
KJ McElrath. KJ, is it McElrath or McElrath?
Actually, we always pronounce it McElrath, but
McElrath.
McElrath is probably how they would say it in Scotland. So
Okay.
take
Yeah.
your pick.
So KJ is a member of our action team here at Copiosis, and I believe it may have been his idea to talk about population today, which is what we're talking about today. We're talking about population and what's going to happen once the transition occurs. Are we going to see an explosion of people showing up having babies or what? So Jill, I'm going to turn it over to you, and audience, I'm going to fade into the background. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask any of us during the show, please feel free to write your questions in the comment section. I will see them. I'm in the production studio, so I will see them, and we will make sure we get them on the show. So Jill, without further ado, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, KJ, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm happy
And
to be here.
I thought it would be nice if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you discovered Copiosis and maybe something that you really like about it. So if you want to share that.
Yes. Well, I let's see. Where do I start? I have my degree. My background is actually in music. I'm a composer. Um, I also play background music at parties and supper clubs, and I really enjoy that. But as far as my day job was, for many, many years, I was a writer who did ad copy, search engine optimization, and for the last several years, working for lawyers. Same kind of thing. It's marketing, and it was just basically regurgitating the same stories over and over and over again. But it was a nice paycheck. And then all of this happened. And I went on Craigslist, say, well, I wonder who else you could use my services. Well, then I ran across Perry's ad. He was looking for writers for Copiosis. And that didn't quite play out, but it drew me into this innovation. And I realized, like TC, this is what I've been looking for all my life. This is what I think most of us have been looking for. It's a system that doesn't tear anything down. It's not a revolution. And it respects everyone where they are. It makes both sides happy. What's really thrilled me about it, I used to describe myself as a really left of Karl Marx socialist. And I lost friends and alienated family members over this whole thing. And as I studied Copiosis, I realized that, you know what, we can both have what we want here. And
Right.
probably one of the happiest moments of my recent life is when one of my old right-wing friends got in touch with me.
Mhm.
And, he said, it was really kind of stupid that we broke up our friendship over that. And I said, I agree,
Yeah.
and look, this is what I'm working on. And, it gives the socialists what they want. They want no cost housing, no cost food, all these necessities. But it also makes the free marketers real happy because that's how all those things are delivered. And they posted a blog today about that. Shows you how it works. Ayn Rand, I used to think she was the devil incarnate. Reagan, Thatcher, I despised them. And now I can look at them and say, you know what? They had the right ideas. The
Mhm.
only problem with their ideas is they don't work in capitalism.
Right.
You
Right.
get the money and the debt out of the way and then watch what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I think that's why we're all so excited about it and wanting to promote this, and wanting other people to learn about it.
Mm-hmm.
And and like the reason that I'm doing this with Perry is because I have a lot of questions. It's such a transformation,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels so complicated, and just every little aspect of our daily lives would change so tremendously. But the thing is, it's completely doable. I mean, look at it. We're already doing everything anyway.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of this stuff's already happening.
Yeah, we're already doing it.
Mhm.
So, you and I had a conversation here this last week. And so, what we wanted to talk about today is um, just another aspect of the whole copiosis thing, right?
Mhm.
Because your housing and your housing and your health care and everything, all those basic things are provided for you. How might that affect population?
Yeah, and
So I'd like to know, you have a lot of history, a lot of history and stuff. So I just like to know what your thoughts are.
yes. I think that fears of a population explosion are greatly overblown. One thing that I think we're actually seeing in the world today is population growth is slowing down, and where it is still going are in developing countries. But in the Western industrialized world, it's actually slowing down and even declining in some parts. So, what does that tell us? Well, I think for this, you need to go back in history and understand why is it that people said they thought they had to have these huge families? Well, there was a couple of reasons for that. First of all, you go back even, 150 or 200 years. If you had 10 kids, you would be lucky if 2 of them lived to see adulthood. So that's just how you made sure your family continued. The other factor was, and this is of course what you're seeing in the developing world, was our agrarian society. Farms take a lot of labor, and you want to have a lot of kids to work on that farm. And then in fact, that's one of the reasons too that most families, today you hear about the traditional nuclear family, one mom, one dad, and 2.5 kids. Well, there's nothing traditional about that. Most of our history, we lived in extended family clan groupings. And again, it was about agriculture. And that's how we dealt with it. And what's really funny is this mentality, even when we stopped moving on, when we started moving into the cities in the 19th century,
Mm.
um, this mentality kind of continued. So because in that case, well, all right, we're living in this ghetto, and money's hard to come by, so we need to have a lot of kids so they can go out and get jobs and bring money into the family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
When that doesn't, when that's not a factor anymore, then suddenly we're not pressured to have so many offspring. Now, I'm not, of course, I'm not going to win. There's some religious beliefs of some people's religions that, oh well, you have to have children as long as your deity is decrees it, But I think though they're pretty much a minority, and I don't think that's going to be a problem in copiosis. If people want to, some people will want to have big families, but they're going to have them because they love kids. They're not going to have them because we need little income earners or little workers on the farm
Right.
to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, I guess I could argue that you've seen a decrease in populations because over the last 50 years, more and more women have gone to work. And so, and they've been required to go to work basically because either, the father is out of the picture or was never in the picture, or because they needed that just to, have two incomes
Yes.
just to sustain a lifestyle required to just survive basically, or if they wanted and improve the quality of their life, it took both incomes.
You're right.
So they almost, and then um, the extreme cost of having a child now.
Yes.
I mean, just giving, the whole process of just going through pregnancy and giving birth, and then
Yes.
the extreme expense until they're, all the way forever. Yes, but
Hmm.
the first 5 years, I think, are probably very, very expensive. I mean, I
Yes.
look at my daughter, and her last birth was, and they had insurance. Her last birth was like $10,000, and that is, an extreme amount of money. So I think those things have contributed to, you know, women not having children.
Hmm.
And we have, there's a lot more birth control available, which contributes
Yes.
to. So I'm thinking in copiosis that um, I think it will still be you know, a thoughtful process.
Hmm.
And I think, I just think about, can you imagine if, we get to, like, let's say copiosis is here, it's in the US, and let's say it's actually starting to pop up in different parts of Europe and stuff. Can you imagine the force we would be to be reckoned with, where we could go into undeveloped countries and build housing,
Hmm.
provide power, provide clean water, provide them the tools that they need to create their own resources,
Hmm.
you know, to, to do it on their own and earn their own, NBR and their own incomes.
Hmm.
Uh, and just because we don't do it now because of the cost, I mean,
Yes.
if you wanted to go do something like that, um, where are you going to get the money to, support your family? Where are you going to get the money to, provide the materials? Where are you going to get the money? Where are you going to get the money? Where's the money? The money, the money.
Yes.
Where it's in copiosis. And I think once you provide those people with the tools that they need to, you know, have a better life. But it seems to me that they live a pretty simple life and they're happy anyway. So, I mean, right? It's up to it would I would imagine it would be up to them to decide what their needs are, right? And that people would provide it for them. So,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
funny. I just remembered a movie came out years and years ago called The Gods Must Be Crazy. Have you ever seen that?
No, I have not.
It's about a tribe of Bushmen in the Kalahari where their lives haven't been, they haven't changed in 10,000 years. And then this Coca-Cola bottle drops out of the sky. Someone threw it out of a plane, whoever, and all of a sudden, everyone in the tribe run a fight over this thing. And finally, the elected, we want to call him a chief. He's probably more like an alderman, but he says, you know what? you need to take this gift back to the gods and say, this is causing us problems. We don't want it anymore. And so that's what the movie's all about. But I thought it was very interesting that something that you had said made me think about that.
Yeah.
They're happy. Their lives are simple. And, I'm a big believer in the Star Trek, Starfleet principle of the non-interference directive.
Right. Exactly.
There's actually one Stone Age tribe that still exists. They're on an island off the coast of India, and I can't think of the name of it right now. And some missionary went there and got killed after he had been warned to stay away from them because they don't want outsiders. And I'm sorry, I don't feel sorry for the guy. He'd been warned, and these people needed to be left alone. I mean, honestly, I can tell you of another example of when a stronger, more advanced culture interfered with a lesser one, and that happened in 1858 when Admiral Matthew Perry sailed ships of the U.S. Navy into Tokyo Bay and turned their guns on Tokyo and told this isolationist, xenophobic nation, you're going to open your country to our trade and our corporations, or we're going to blow you to hell. Well, what happened about 90 years later?
Yeah.
There are consequences to interfering with another culture and another person's ways.
Right.
But
I think that we could, it would be more a spirit of meeting needs and cooperation. And you teach somebody to fish, kind of thing, right? And they can feed themselves. You provide them the tools that they need to do it, if they wanted housing, or they wanted healthcare, or they wanted clean water, or they wanted energy, or whatever. Maybe they don't. That's up to them. But if they do, there's people willing to provide it to them. And
I think more people do than don't. I mean, yes, we have those. I want to say it's the Andaman Islands, but we have that. We have the Bushmen of the Kalahari, and if they still want to live those hunting, gathering, Stone Age lives, then we should leave them alone. Let them do it. But yes, there are. But yes, there are other places in the developing world that says, we'd like to have what you folks have.
Yeah.
Right.
And we don't do it because of the cost. Well, once Copiosis takes cost and debt out of the equation, I think you're going to feel a lot more people who are going to feel passionate about bringing the advantages of advanced civilization to these developing areas.
Yeah.
And it can always be a response to an invitation. So like a country can say to a Doctors Without Borders, please come into our borders and help us with this medical situation. Or we see that the United States, having adopted Copiosis, has done these amazing things. We want some of that. Who can you send us to teach us how it is you guys have gotten to where you are? So it doesn't have to be a bunch of foreigners coming in and saying, we know it's better for you, let us help you.
Yeah. Right.
So let's take a quick break. It's a little bit early, but it's good to cut it now since we're at a good place to stop. So, audience, you are watching Devil's Advocate with Jill Dell there in the center, and to my right, you're right too. That's KJ McElrath. That's KJ. He's a member. He's a member of our team.
Worst time with that name.
Yeah. He's a member of our team and working on the action group. And we're today talking about population and how that might be affected by an implementation of Copiosis. Many people in the world today have a concern that there's too many people on the planet. In fact, there's so many people on the planet, some people say we need to get rid of some of them before we're able to return to a more stable population that's in balance with where the planet is. And so some may be thinking when they look at Copiosis, well, if everything is given to everyone at no cost and people don't have to earn a living, how on earth are you going to keep people from basically having sex all day and popping out babies? And so far, Jill and KJ have produced some really good reasons why that wouldn't be the case. So you're here watching the Copiosis live stream called Devil's Advocate. As always, if you're interested in finding out more about our innovation, what Copiosis is all about, how it works, and how we're making it happen in the world, you can go to our website at copiosis.com. If you're interested in finding out what we do with the money that we get from the supporters around the world who are helping us financially to make this happen, you can go to this website and find out more about how we spend the money. And if you're so inclined, you can even become a patron yourself for as little as $1 a month. And then finally, actually two more things. One, if you're interested in interacting with people and asking questions in real time and getting your answers, you can go to our Copiosis Facebook social group by going to Facebook and searching for Copiosis social group wherever you get on to Facebook. And then finally, if you haven't already, feel free to click that subscribe button and punch that bell so that you are up to date on any new live streams that we schedule or any new videos that we post. And by the way, I believe it's this coming Saturday, we have another live stream where we're going to be talking with our political strategist, Christopher Hatton, and a political activist who has recently joined the Copiosis team, Michael Vick, and they're going to be talking about third-party politics. So that's a good one to be tuning into this Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So Jill.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, so so what if, do you think that we would get to a point where you would receive NBR for not having children?
That's possible. Perry, do you think you can think of any circumstances where that would be the case? I mean, I'm sure it would. I just don't know what those circumstances would be off the top of my head.
Well, there are a couple of concerns to think about. The first one is that the planet can carry a lot more people than we currently have on it. That's the first thing. The second thing is we've seen what happens when a country tries to control people having babies. China's all their ratio of men to women is all effed up because of that. And then thirdly, we always have to remember when we're thinking about copiosis that we're not just talking about planet Earth. I mean, one of the main purposes of copiosis is to enable humanity to freely travel the stars. And so there's plenty of room for people to have babies when you consider the solar system and then the universe. And so the idea that people would get MBR for not having babies, I'm not really sure that there's a strong case to be made for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm young and married in a couple, and we decide we don't want to have children, it's kind of like I might feel unfair that the people deciding, to have 5 kids are getting all this MBR just because they have children.
So yeah, that's a fair complaint, and there have been others who've expressed similar, not identical, but similar concerns where some person might be getting more MBR for something they're doing that this other person has chosen not to do. But here's the thing about that. When a person does something and it produces net benefit, the net benefit that's produced, if it lingers, they keep getting rewards for. And everything someone does produces net benefit. So let's say, Jill, I'm that guy you're talking about who had 5 babies, and you're the one who's young and you've decided not to have any babies. You're still doing a whole lot of things in the world that are creating net benefit. And as a result of all those things, net benefit is just flowing into your life experience. So imagine you've got 5 different things, like this is you right here, and you've got 5 different streams of net benefit coming in because of these 5 things that you've done. Are you really going to be that miffed that I have a 6th thing where, yeah, right. Right.
I think it's a question people might ask.
I agree.
It's like, but just like you just said, I think the answer to that is that because I don't have 5 kids, I have a whole lot more time to go do things that I love and enjoy and will also create NBR for me.
That's exactly right.
I mean, it kind of equals out, right?
Yes, it does.
Or I can sit on my butt at home and do nothing. I mean, it's like, it's up to me. It's not, It's whatever I want to do with my life and how I want to spend my time that will, and if I don't get NBR for it, I may not give a rip. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about getting NBR. I just want to go travel around and, you know, uh, teach children how to play hopscotch or something. You know what I mean?
Which could rate NBR, nice NBR
Yeah,
screen.
Yeah, it
I was
could
telling
actually.
a friend of
exactly.
mine, well, I don't talk to him very much because he's a very negative person, but he's very brilliant and he loves to travel. He speaks 6 languages. He's been all over the world. And I was talking to him about Copiosis, how in Copiosis, you could actually be paid to travel.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you travel and you experience other cultures, you're making the world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Exactly. And it's so exciting. So, at like, we talked about the whole China thing, right? So I think there's a lot of myths around population.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of myths around it, and it comes back to this scarcity. There's a scarcity. We can only feed so many, and we can only clothe so many, and we can only blah, 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 right?
Yeah. Tell that to the Fred Myer that was calling the cops to keep people away from the food that they were throwing away.
Yeah.
I know, wasn't that horrible?
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it.
What was the point of that?
Horrible.
So does somebody want to give some background for people who don't live in Oregon? What was happening there?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, okay. So we had a freezing rain event here in part of near Portland. Portland had mostly snow, but in the outskirts there was freezing rain, and we lots of power outages. We had thousands of homes and businesses without power. So Fred Myer is one of our local grocery stores, and they they threw everything out of their freezers into a huge dumpster. Well, people saw it and found out about it and were climbing in the dumpster and getting food. Well, they called the police and had the police guard the dumpster from people getting food. I thought, what the heck?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just hand it out to homeless people? They're probably thinking they have some kind of liability around it.
That's exactly what it was.
We might get sued because they got it out of the dumpster, or they might come try to return it when the power comes back on, or
that too.
I just thought.
Well, isn't this an interesting demonstration though of how effed up our current system is? It's like a grocery store can't do the right thing because they're afraid, and rightly so, that they might be sued if they do that right thing, right? Because and why is that? Because some people will take advantage of the system and sue because that's how some people can get other people's money. And so it makes total sense for a grocery chain like Fred Meyer, which is a huge grocery chain with stores all over the Northwest, to want to do something to protect their butt. So it's not that hard to figure, but it's because of the system itself. And if it was in a well, first of all, people wouldn't be so freaking hungry that they'd be digging in the dumpster to get food, because in Copiosis, food would be provided to anyone that goes in and gets it. And then secondly, if there's an ice event like we had here in Portland, presumably we would have created a system that can handle that kind of thing, because it doesn't cost anything to produce an electrical grid. So you don't have an electrical grid that can't handle once in a 500-year storms. You have an overbuilt system because you're not paying anything to build that thing. So the same thing can be said in Texas. In Texas right now, as you two probably know, there's a huge a winter storm down there that's left a lot of people without power, because Texas, one of the reasons I've heard is because Texas designed its system to be independent, which is fine, but the system was not designed to handle winter events like they're experiencing, because they've never really had a winter event like that before.
Well, and it was also built as a profit generator.
That's accurate too.
So it means you have to cut the costs and maximize yeah, got to do it on the cheap so you can maximize those profits.
Well,
Yeah.
and let's be clear. The other reason why it's that way is because not long ago Texas deregulated their electric system, which allowed customers to get lower prices, but it also, as one of the officials said, resulted in you pay for what you get. And so if you're paying
Yeah,
for really low electricity in a deregulated market, you're not going to get the bells and whistles. You're going to get the
yeah,
basic plan.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
just crazy.
Now,
Yeah.
before we get too
Right.
far away from this Fred Meyer thing, I should point out that there is a way, that the legal way, that Fred Meyer could have let everyone take that in food and avoided any liability, and all they would have had to do is put a sign up there saying, help yourself at your own risk. We take no responsibility if you get food poisoning or any,
Yeah.
and then they're free and clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's
all they
just
had to do.
Yeah, I don't know. And at the same time, this like I saw this little blip about Texas where a man owned a furniture company, furniture sales room, has thousands and thousands of square feet of sales rooms, has multiple sales rooms,
Hmm.
and they had generators there, so they had power. And he just invited anybody who needed shelter to come in and sleep on the beds and sleep
Hmm.
on the couches and sleep on the recliners and bring your families and just like that's how copiosis would be,
Absolutely.
That's right.
NBR awarded.
That's right.
NEBR through the roof,
That's right. That's right.
yeah, through
Yeah.
the roof, yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about, I don't know, do we want to really, do you feel like, Perry, is there anything that you want to add about like
About population?
populations, your
Yeah.
thoughts on?
I was just thinking about that. So it's interesting because when some people will make a lot of arguments about welfare babies and how
Yeah.
people are having babies out of wedlock and when they're poor, and those people shouldn't be having babies because they can't afford to even take care of the babies, but the people are
Well,
having.
they also get money from the government. I mean, the
Well,
welfare
that's
queen
the other thing too,
crap. Yeah.
yes, and that the people are having babies because they're this. So goes the argument, because they are not gainfully employed, not busy, and therefore having a lot of sex. And so the argument could be made. I'm not saying it's valid, but it could be made that if everyone's got all their necessities provided at no cost, that they're all going to stay at home and the men are going to play video games and the girls are going to have sex, or maybe the other way around. The question is who's going to have sex with whom. But
I just let them all fall in bed together. Let God sort it out.
exactly right. But so the the question though is when you're free to do whatever you want and your passion produces income streams, are you really going to be wanting to spend your time having a whole bunch of sex? And how long, just like playing video games, how long can playing video games be satisfying? Well, for some people it can be really satisfying, but it's not likely that two people are going to come together and think that having those two have people having sex all the time is going to be satisfying in the long run. And so when you're faced with like pursuing a hobby, unless it's sex, or having sex, it's more than likely that the hobby is going to win out because the hobby just provides more fun. And by hobby, I mean something that stokes your passion. And then when you realize that you can get income from pursuing your passion, then it's far less likely that you're going to do anything other than that. I mean, the people I know who are really engaged in having fun with their passions don't really have a whole lot of time for other things. And that's one of the reasons why wives get mad at husbands who have really deep passions like fishing or golf or something like that, is because the husbands are hardly at home. They're
Yeah,
out
yeah.
pursuing their passion.
Well, I think like I think part of the problem is just the way the whole system is structured. Like if you make this much money, you make, let's say, $24,000 a year, right? Then they're going to give you X number of dollars to help you with your in food stamps or to help you with your children, or maybe you get free health care. But if you get promoted and now you're making $28,000 a year, then, oh, no more food stamps for you. And, oh, no more welfare for your children. And, oh, you don't qualify for health care anymore. But you're only making the $4,000 more a year that you're making could no way even begin to touch those costs.
Yeah.
So why would you do anything different? Why would you? Well, I guess the only way that I can improve my life is if, I have another kid,
Yeah.
and then that raises the income level
Right.
to where I can make, $30,000 a year with 3 kids and still qualify for, I mean, it's
That's right,
just,
Jill. It's
but
a
I
perverse
doubt, I
incentive.
seriously doubt that there is women deliberately having children just to tweak the system,
That's a myth that Ronald Reagan and his buddies promulgated back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my parents were both social workers, and I can tell you just from remembering what I do about them that's crap. My dad would complain about it sometimes, but and there may be a few individuals who think they want to work the system that way, but it's rare. It's very rare.
Yeah, I just don't think, I think it will probably do just the opposite. I think you will see a reduction in population.
Yep.
Overall, because I don't know, it feels like things will slow down.
Yes, because we're not chasing a living.
That scares a lot of people, Jill, the idea of it slowing down. Yeah.
Yeah. Once your life slows down and you're not so stressed and all of that, you have more opportunity to just like really enjoy your children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like really and really decide, we've got this, we've got 2 kids, and life feels really good, and if we brought another child into the world, would that really enrich our lives? Or yeah, I want to have another baby, or no, I think we're good. I think we've got, or maybe I have 4 children, and that just feels right for us. You make those decisions in a lot calmer manner, right?
Yeah. And I actually wrote about that in a recent blog post about the fellow in Texas. He's a Trump conservative, and now this is how his life changed under Copiosis. And one of those things, he was proud of being a working man who provided for his family. So I guess he was a good father. But now in Copiosis, he didn't have to do that, so he could be a good dad.
Yeah.
And have fun with his kids.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And
like,
and the balance between those who are going to choose to have fewer kids and those who are going to choose to have more kids, it's going to balance out. And so we'll be fine, and the planet will be fine too. And the children who they will be bearing will be coming into a world that will inspire the best from them. And so think of that as opposed to a child who comes into the world crack addicted or poor, who then develops feelings of insecurity, resentment, and anger toward everybody. And then as a result of that grows up becoming a criminal or depressed or something like that. You have much different outcomes in the world that we're talking about. So population, I don't think it's going to be a problem. Go ahead, Jill.
No, it's also, go, Jen, please.
I was just going to say, it's, just having truly great health care will make a huge difference.
Yes.
It'll make a huge difference in, in birth defects and just, mother's health and all of that. But in addition, I think that we'll have a better understanding of whether children really need to be vaccinated the day that they are born. and whether the vaccinations that they are receiving right now are even necessary, and if the combinations that they're using in the vaccines aren't in fact causing things like, autism and diabetes and cancer and a lot of diseases that undeveloped countries aren't experiencing.
Yeah.
And really delve into and have access to the best thing to do for that. And because the way things are now are for money.
Yeah,
And the way,
everything is
and when
run
you
for
take
that reason.
that out, that can change just so many things.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that it isn't, people can make their own decisions about what they want and what they don't want.
Yeah.
And that brings to another aspect
Hang
of
on a second,
this.
KJ. We need to take a break.
Oh.
So it's
Okay.
20 till, actually it's 19 till. We're a little bit late, but I wanted to thank everybody who's watching this, whether you're watching it live or you're watching it after the live recording. You are watching the show Devil's Advocate. Today we're talking about population control and copiosis. We kind of snuck in there a little bit of conversation about food necessities and things like that. But this show is designed to ask the sticky questions and get really good answers about how Copiosis answers those sticky questions. And if you want to find out more about Copiosis, you can go to this website here, copiosis.com, and you can read all about the innovation, including our transition plan, how we're actually going to implement this over the next coming years. And then also, if you're wanting to find, if you know about Copiosis and you've been here a while and you want to know how we're spending the money that we're getting, you can go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/copiosis, and see the budget and see where all the money that comes in is going. And there you can even become a patron of our work for as little as $1 a month. And then finally, if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button and hit the bell so that you get notifications of future live streams that we may schedule, including and videos that we may load from time to time. And speaking of future videos that we may be loading, we have a new live stream coming up on Saturday, where Christopher Hatton, our political strategist, is speaking with Michael Vick, a political activist, about third-party politics in the wake of the Trump administration and the 2020 election. So join us on Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time for that show, or you can watch it after the recording at your leisure. Okay, let's get back to the conversation. KJ, you wanted to say something?
Oh, yes. And this is something that Tom Hartman, I don't know if you know who he is. He's a liberal talk show host, and I've always had a lot of respect for him. But he has pointed out that in societies where women are empowered, when they're educated, and when they have control over their own lives, birth rates just decline naturally. And what does Copiosis do? It empowers each of us to take control. Men, women, you have control over your lives now. Nobody has that control over you. And I think that's going to be a big factor.
Yeah. And I think as generally as the health of people improve, that in itself will improve people's lives. As the quality of food production improves and goes from these giant agri farms dumping tons of chemicals on food, and as it goes away from, I can see it going away from these prepackaged processed foods, fast food places like McDonald's are going to have products that are so much taste better
and are healthier
and are healthier for you, and just a whole, in every industry that you look at is going to change population. We will live longer because we're healthier.
Mm-hmm.
because we have more access to healthcare, because we have better healthcare. I mean, you know, there's a lot of natural remedies to a lot of this illnesses that we have, that if we didn't have pharmaceutical companies shoving pills down everybody's throats,
Yes.
making that the answer to everything, um, then I can see the population's going to will grow because people just live longer and because people live
Mhm.
healthier.
And you know, this
So
is. Go ahead. I
no,
was just
that's
this is a beautiful example of how the free market responds to what you're talking about, and what we're seeing.
mhm,
Recently, I don't know when they started this, but Burger King started offering a meatless Whopper.
right. Yeah,
Now, did they do that because, well, we'd like people to eat healthier? No, they didn't give a damn about that. What they thought is, oh, people are wanting to take control of their own health, and so they're eating vegetarian, so we better respond to that market demand.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful,
Well,
isn't it? Nobody had to force them. Nobody had to
right.
force anyone to do anything. It was,
Yeah, I haven't tried their veggie burger yet, so well, yeah, we'll see
oh,
how that goes. Yeah.
oh,
Well, it's interesting because some people believe that the Copiosis framework with net benefit value would not be significant enough an incentive to cause producers to produce things that are better than what they produce today. But KJ, what you just said is a perfect example of how a market incentive can do exactly that. And the idea in so the reason why Burger King made that choice is because they saw it as an opportunity to expand their market, perhaps into segments that weren't coming to Burger King. And so the same thing can be said for every improvement. So like if any company that saw the value of making their product better and then made it better to the satisfaction of the net benefit value algorithm would get more MBR. And so and unlike, so here's the thing, the difference between capitalism and Copiosis. In capitalism, for Burger King to have switched to that product, they would have had to either incur more cost or reduce cost somewhere else to pay for that increased cost, unless the cost of a meatless patty was less than the patties that they're purchasing currently to make their Whoppers and whatnot. In
Right.
Copiosis, nothing that the individual company consumes costs them anything. And so the individual company doesn't incur any costs in improving their processes. The individual
Right.
company just gets more MBR as they improve their process. And when they implement a process that's new that makes their process better, the organization that offered the improvement also gets MBR. So everybody
Yeah.
wins. So
Yeah.
exactly.
why wouldn't a business continuously improve their systems and
Yeah.
processes and resources and employees and all that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
cool to think about.
Associates.
It's really, it's
Associates,
just,
yeah.
it's so simple to me, you know, like the way this works. It's just so simple, right? Um, and I just see how it can change every single aspect. And KG, was it you that told me that if every single person in the world they could fit in, like,
Oh, the
uh,
world population? Yeah,
yeah,
if the world population was as dense as, say, Hong Kong or New Delhi, we would all fit in the space the size of New Zealand.
wow. I
So
mean, that's
there's
pretty
still,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's
well, there's certain places you can't maybe live, but we,
Well, although it's damn amazing where humans have made homes. I mean, they have found remains of little villages in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
yeah, yeah.
uh,
So,
And that's with no
yeah,
real technology. I mean, with the
yeah.
technology we have now, we could live pretty much anywhere, and we're getting close to where we can live in the air or live underwater, and live on
right.
top of the
Yeah,
water. So there's
live
plenty
on
of
top of
room
the
on this
water.
planet. There's
Right.
plenty of room.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of room on the earth. It's just a matter of taking care of the earth so that it can take care of us. You know,
Exactly,
that really
Michelle.
Yeah,
what it
this
boils
is
down to.
yeah. Yeah, this is my response. I respond to a lot of people on Facebook about copiosis. And one of the concerns that have been brought up is, well, if everyone's rich and everyone's going to be using these resources, how are we going to handle that? Well, we're going to use those resources much more intelligently.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, when cost isn't a factor, you're going to see the dreams of people like Elon Musk realize we're going to go out in space, we're going to mine asteroids. Who knows what's on Mars? I mean, Mars, I think we're all pretty sure it's a dead planet, so it's ripe for plucking.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because when you become more prosperous, you have less desire to consume stuff and more desire to have an experience. And so, what's going to happen? So as products get better, they're going to last longer. And think about it. Think about it. If a company that's making cars will get more MBR if they keep that car running and in tip-top shape, it makes sense for the car maker to not give you the car. It makes more sense to just let you use the car and enjoy the service that the car provides while they retain ownership, and every once in a while keep that car maintained so you don't have to. It just makes life easy for everyone. So you end up with a society of people, the majority of whom aren't collecting a whole bunch of stuff. They're just enjoying the usage of the stuff that's provided.
And who remembers Zipcar? Remember Zipcar?
Yeah.
That was an attempt to do just that.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think that once we know we always have access to what we want, ownership is going to be much less of an issue.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it just reminded me, like, after my brother passed away, we discovered a sprinkler that my parents used. So we're talking, this thing's been around for probably 80 years at least. And it's made of metal and it still works great. And the garbage that I buy today, made in China, plastic, horrible stuff, I have to buy a new one every year because it breaks.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how much landfills have been filled with crap if companies say, well, okay, there's no cost now, we can build something that will last lifetimes.
Yes.
And you're still going to get rewarded for that too.
Yes.
Something that you can pass on to your children and your children's children and your children's children's children.
Yes.
We're not going to build a desk out of crappy plywood or particle board. We're going to build one out of renewable wood that will last a lifetime.
And if it does start to wear out, we will take it back and make it back to new.
I mean, but look at furniture. Furniture furniture can last
a lifetime.
Hundreds
That's
of
right.
years.
That's
hundreds
right.
and hundreds of years.
That's right.
Look at trees. They last for hundreds and hundreds of years. And, I mean, it's just it's just that we've used cheaper materials to make cheaper things that don't last. So then you need to use more materials to make even cheaper materials. So, I mean, everything's built so it doesn't last. So that you buy more, buy more, buy more. It's the only way you support the system.
That's right.
Is if everybody's buying it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not sure how that all relates to population, but we were talking about how it will change and how we'll be able to support more population, right? Is because we will use less resources and build quality things to last lifetimes rather than building the use it and throw it in the garbage.
Right.
Right. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suspect that maybe those landfills at some point in the future, once again, cost isn't a factor and people's passions are freed to figure out solutions. I think you're going to see a new industry mining these landfills for usable materials.
Yeah. Yeah. If they haven't been too deteriorated, to be able to be reusable.
Well,
They're,
But
even if
they're,
you can break things down to the molecular level and reassemble them, I
yeah.
mean, we're on our way to that technology.
I mean, there's already a company here in Oregon, in Beaverton, I believe it is, or it might be Tiger, called Plastifuel. And what they do is
Mhm.
they mine plastics from landfills and reconstitute that into fuel for cars. And they've been
mm,
doing quite well over the last 12 years that I've been aware of them. I don't know if they're still going now given the recession, but it's all the
I'm
technology is already there to do that exactly. Yeah. So it's
yeah,
very cool.
exactly.
Yeah. So anything
Yeah.
else we want to say in the remaining 5 minutes of the show?
Only that I am very optimistic about the future.
Good. We all should
I
be.
think, yeah, we are, and just know that that's we're heading. Gene Roddenberry had a vision, and we are going. That's now coming to pass slowly but surely.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and I also like the part about that where it's do no harm to others. You know what I mean? I think that's
Yeah.
really that's really a message of love. And
Hmm.
Yes.
I've been saying continuously, you know, like what we really need is love. What
Yeah.
we really, really need is to stop the hate, stop the bull, and just, you know, consider that other person is just as valuable as you are. And labeling them this and labeling them that and all the division is just created. It's just created.
Well,
And it
and
can be uncreated in moments.
Yeah.
once we are no longer competing for resources, when we're not competing for food and housing, and that hatred is going to
Yeah,
fade away.
Yeah.
it's all going to disappear. I mean, there's still people I'm not going to maybe care for.
That's
They're
right.
just
Yeah.
not, the
Yeah. Jesus
personality
said,
type
"Love your."
is not mine, but I don't care. Go do your thing. Just don't do it over there.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Let's go do it over there.
Yeah. Jesus said, "Love your neighbor." It didn't say you had to like him.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that. I think I'm just, I guess I'm less patient. I'm on it now. I'm just on it now. But the reason I'm doing this, I don't know about you, KJ, but the reason I'm doing this is because I want this future for my children and my grandchildren and their children's children's children. So, and I think it's probably the only way that the earth and people are going to be able to survive here is changing to a whole different dynamic of how we're treating each other and what we're doing for each other. And it's so easy and it's so possible. And we're
Yes.
already doing it.
That's
We're
exactly right.
already doing it.
Yeah.
Are
Just
already.
take the money out of it, take the politics out of it, take the taxes out of it,
Take the
take
debt
take
out of it.
Yeah.
take the debt out of it
Yeah.
and just give,
Yeah. That's
give,
the key
give.
word. Love and give.
Yeah.
Giant big community,
Yeah. Yeah.
and get rewarded for that,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Couldn't have said
Yeah.
it better, Jill. And with that, we're going to wrap up the show. Thank you all for watching, whether you're watching it live or you're watching the post recorded version. You have been watching Devil's Advocate with Jill Dell in the center and KJ on the right, who is a member of our action team who joined us as a guest. We've been talking about population and how it's affected by copiosis, as well as some other things, but it's been a lively conversation, and it was good to have KJ with us today. Tune in this Saturday. We'll be talking about third-party politics in the wake of the 2020 election. That's Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And then, of course, next week, Monday at 1 o'clock, Jill and I will be back. We might even have, are we going to have Michael Vick, Jill?
Yeah,
We are,
I
aren't
think
we?
I'm hoping we can have Michael Vick, and we'll probably talk about power.
There you go.
How,
So
how,
there you go. So
power.
we'll be talking with Michael Vick, our political activist, around power. And so join us
Yeah.
next week. We will see you then. Until then, have a great rest of your week, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Having me. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.